Hello and welcome to this week's edition of World Today. The focus remains Russia-Ukraine border crisis. And our focus is also going to be an exclusive conversation with NATO ambassadors here in India. But first, an exclusive story. India today has accessed new satellite images from the Russia-Ukraine border captured on the 24th of February. Satellite images show Russia has deployed armored vehicles, artillery and helicopter on borders just 20 kilometers from Ukraine border. Images show Putin is preparing for a prolonged battle and is in no mood to step back. Ankit Kumar brings you this exclusive report. And joining me now from Ground Zero from Ukraine is our executive editor, Gaurav Sawant. Gaurav, I hope you're safe. Well, Gaurav, in terms of the evacuation missions that we are seeing, India is carrying out a huge mission because there are many Indian nationals, particularly Indian students in Ukraine. But there are other foreign nationals as well, a lot of foreign students from other countries and Ukrainians who now want to leave Ukraine. What's the evacuation process looking like? How chaotic is it or could it be?
Majority of the students are not in the capital Kyiv. They are in Odessa, which is a major education hub here. Some children are in other cities, including in Kyiv, again, a major education hub. Most of them are studying medicine. Some are also studying engineering. And a lot of people are working in the IT sector here. Like in India, the IT sector is growing very rapidly in Ukraine. But now these people find themselves in a very difficult situation. We spoke to some of the students who said they've been forced to spend nights in bunkers and in basements of their buildings. In some instances where they don't have bunkers close to their buildings, they've been told to rush to the nearest metro station. Kyiv also has one of the oldest metro stations in Europe and a rather deep one that you can go at least 4 levels below the Earth's surface to travel by metro. So that is where people have been hiding. They've been now told to move towards the Polish border. The American diplomats, several Western diplomats had also moved towards Lviv so that should a need arise, they could quickly cross the border through into Poland. And that is why these students are also now going into Poland, where Air India will take 2 special flights initially and then, depending on need, more flights, all paid for by the government, to bring the Indians back home.
On Spotlight this weekend, we will be discussing what is at stake for all the member states of NATO as also the West. This is the NATO Roundtable. I've got 3 key members of NATO member states, which is 1, the European Union bloc. Joining me is the EU Ambassador to India, Ambassador Ugo Astuto. Also joining me is the German Ambassador to India, Ambassador Walter Lindner, and the British Envoy to India, High Commissioner Alex Ellis. Let's begin with Britain. We do know, High Commissioner Ellis, that Ukraine is not a NATO member state. But can the European Union or the West look at any military intervention should matters escalate? Because that's one question that is being asked. And with the kind of statements that we've seen from President Zelensky, it seems like Ukraine certainly is disappointed with NATO and the West.
Well, we have to be frank, matters have escalated completely already with the totally unprovoked invasion with 200,000 troops. Now, many people dying, many more will be displaced. It'll be humanitarian tragedy as well. So President Putin has the blood on his hands. So what can we do? We have to, with patience, with determination and with unity, show to the world, and this is an issue for the whole world, I think, not just for Europe, that unprovoked military aggression and invasion by an autocratic power cannot succeed. So we have already strengthened our presence militarily on the borders. We're going to send some more Marines to Poland. We've already doubled the size of our contribution in Estonia, another one of the neighbors. And also we do this with a show of unity with other NATO members and other countries from around the world. We have to send that strong military signal.
The other big area that everybody's focused on and it has been discussing is, despite the economic sanctions, there is a lot of conversation with regards to gas needs of Europe from Russia. The energy needs that Russia really fulfills is one of the major reasons why Europe is a divided house. Nord Stream 2 is something that the European countries have a huge stake in, and whether if it is going to be something that Germany is going to look at. The price is quite high when it comes to stopping and halting Nord Stream 2. But Ambassador Lindner, if you could tell us, what does this mean for Germany? Can Germany sustain itself without gas from Russia?
I mean, as I said, sanctions try to hurt the Russian side as possible and as targeted as possible. But of course, sanction also will have negative influences and impacts on our side. Of course, we depend to quite some percentage on Russian oil and gas. But we have provided, when we were preparing the sanctions, that we can even put on the table a freezing of this pipeline, and we did it. So peace and the respect of, I would say, the respect of international law has its price, and we know how it can be also some costs on our side. Energy prices might get up. We all know this, but listen, we didn't cause this. It is the Russian side, and if we don't react commonly, anonymously, with consent on the whole globe, then we will have to pay an even higher price in future, because then this will be the norm, the standard. Such an aggression by a powerful country, which puts then the force on top of the law. If this is the standard in future, then we all pay a much higher price. So sometimes in history, we have to pay a price to avoid even worse prices.
Well, we have been hearing of sweeping sanctions, huge economic sanctions that will cost heavily to Russia, and Russia will suffer consequences. But Ambassador Astuto, if I could come to you, Europe certainly is not a united house when it comes to even sanctions. Now, when President Biden was holding a press conference and was asked about one particular question, he himself said that Europe is not united, and that has to do with sanctions against SWIFT transactions. Sanctions are not imposed on SWIFT transactions, something that certainly would impact Russia hugely, but countries within Europe do not agree. We see a lot of engagement between European Union, the West, and the United States of America, but certainly no consensus on sanctioning SWIFT.
Look, the European Union is fully united on condemning the aggression and sanctioning Russia. And I think if you have a look at the package which is about to be adopted, it's a very significant package, and the consequences will be massive. It is the end of it. I'm not sure if the aggressive pattern, if the aggression from Russia continues, other sanctions may be necessary, and then we shall see what other fields will be affected.
Ambassador Lindner, you spoke earlier of a higher price that needs to be paid for freedom and democracy, sir. But Europe is not united. Would you explain how then can there be a concerted effort to take on Russia if we are looking at the same SWIFT transaction? And I'm focusing on this only because this is something that everybody's asking. Your economic sanctions will not really hold together unless and until SWIFT is also sanctioned.
You see, this is what I guess Russia is hoping for, that the Western side or the world is divided, and we have a rift in the European Union, in the NATO, and in G7, whatever. It's not happening. It's not happening because people know what is at stake. And if you are not reacting on this incredible violation of integrity and sovereignty of a country, then our price will be much higher. So you will see, and Putin will see, we are very united. And no, it's not something against any Russian people. We have a lot of respect for Russian people, and they have a very strong civil society, and they are striving for democracy. This is, I guess, what the Russian president is afraid of, that this democracy is getting stronger and stronger. So I don't know. You have to ask those people who are surrounding the Russian president why he comes up with such a behavior which is totally unacceptable.
Hi, Commissioner Ellis, let me come to you with the same question all over again. We see through visuals, the Ukrainian forces' retaliation, that there is absolute determination on the side of Ukrainian government and the part of the people of Ukraine. But it just seems like with the recent statements by President Zelensky that he is rather disappointed that NATO did not come to the defense of Ukraine. In such a scenario, do you see Zelensky losing popularity and hence a change in government in Ukraine, which is what maybe President Putin wants?
Well, I don't think it's a question of losing popularity. I think it's a question of an autocratic neighbor simply invading another country. Russia is bigger than Ukraine. It has shown a quite extraordinary aggression and unprovoked violence and destructiveness against its neighbor. We have and will continue to work with Ukraine. As I said, we've launched the biggest pack of sanctions I think I can ever remember. Together, we're doing that with lots of partners and allies around the world, which will come up to about 50% of the world's GDP. And we are determined to show to President Putin that violence and militaristic oppression and autocracy will not work.
Ambassador Astuto, you are representing an entire bloc, the European Union, key important European countries who are also part of the NATO. Hence, my question to you is to do with India. We see a lot of engagement between India and the European Union, between India and the West. There have been conversations between External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar and the higher representatives in your headquarters, as also between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the top EU leadership. But when it comes to really looking at India's stand, it just seems like the West also, the NATO allies also want India to take a stand, while Russia is a strategic partner of India and India is towing a very cautious line. In that, what are your expectations? What is the NATO, or for that matter, European Union's expectations from India in this crisis situation?
Well, as I said earlier, I think it's. I think the international community needs to come together in defense of the UN Charter, in defense of the international law, and I think this is valid across the board.
Time for a short break. On the other side, we'll talk about the bigger game plan of Russian President Vladimir Putin. Stay tuned to India Today.